But it was not your fault but mine, and it was your heart on the line.
Are posted on public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center, published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Do you need me to read that, Omar? Or good? Okay, good. Okay, salute to the flag. Please. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Omar, please. Councilor Dave.
Here.
Councilor Wilson. Here. Councilor Bennett. Here. Councilor Meredith.
He's here.
Councilor Friend.
Here.
Councilor Park. Here. Here. Before we get into the presentations, Councilman Michaels is on the dais now. I just want to mention to the public that we're testing out a new format of the meetings beginning this evening, where this, and correct me if I'm wrong with anything, this entire meeting is a public meeting, correct?
Correct.
All right, so we are going to take action, vote on things, discuss them, move them to the next meeting if possible. So we're going to beg a little indulgence here as we work through this new format a little bit. Okay, first presentation. Now, the order of the presentation is Colliers is supposed to go first with the library group and the Bliss Avenue update, and then the sidewalk request update. If it's okay with the council, I'd like to switch that so that Bob Burns can go first and the residents who are here can go first. Okay, everybody good with that? All right. Okay, sidewalk request update. What's the order of battle here? Council.
Well, the request has been made by the council to be able to ask questions of the borough employees first, as they've already heard from the residents. So what I would suggest is to have Bob come up if he doesn't mind. And then this way the residents have the opportunity to also participate in discussion after the questions are asked.
Bob, you're familiar with the application?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so do you want to make any sort of opening statement, or we go right to council questions?
But
Okay, council members. Lauren, go ahead. I kind of saw your hand there.
Happy to hear about being here tonight. So, in looking at this property, do all the surrounding properties on that side of the street have sidewalk?
no,
Okay. What is the,
I didn't figure out the percentage.
not that,
But there's 4 houses with a sidewalk. 7 houses without.
do you remember why the sidewalks were taken out?
As far as I know, they were never there.
Okay, the council amendment is next, and Councilman Doctor.
The group about, I wanted to ask, in general, what the regular way that, how does it, how do you, when you look at it, you're evaluating, give a little background. You know, you didn't have, I think some background.
Sidewalks are really designated or installed if there's a previous sidewalk. If there's no sidewalk, then my department does not tell them to put it in, and the engineer review does not tell them to do it. We don't address the existing houses. We do address the non-housing rebuilds. So the house that was built whenever and does not have a sidewalk will remain without a sidewalk unless council deems it they want sidewalks installed.
So how about if the actual, if the street is going to have a sidewalk, but there isn't a sidewalk at all?
There are no streets that are zoned for sidewalks. The borough has no ordinance mandating sidewalks.
But there are individual requests for certain, for example, the or Magnolia, there are sidewalks there, how do those get it?
I have no idea that you need one before I.
So just to piggyback on this line of questioning, so according to the map that you presented with a picture keeper on Leonard, there's the new construction that really borders the park. And the fairly new construction, they have it as number 62 on this map that they have going. And not only does that not have a sidewalk across the street, doesn't either. So, is that type of thing where, is this the purview of your department where we say, that my understanding, mostly streets that have sidewalks, you have it on one side of the street. And on that particular section, it's not on either side of the street. Is that an area where you say, okay, maybe there wasn't one there previously, and you have to put it in?
The building department under the construction code does not regulate what's on the site. It regulates the building only. Zoning can regulate the other improvements. Borough ordinances under zoning do not pertain to sidewalks. They do not mandate.
So
Yes.
zoning.
Our zoning ordinance does not mandate sidewalks either.
Okay, so that could be.
The only thing is under borough ordinance, which is something that says if you have a sidewalk, you have to maintain it.
So that's where you come in with this particular appeal. Is
Yeah.
there's sidewalk there, you have to repair it. And
That's correct. Unless mayor and council allow the homeowner to remove it.
okay, thank you.
If you could, number 62, the one at the end of that, do we want to post to the do we know if do we have any records of ever having a sidewalk prior? Meaning, when, I guess, when who was newly or under construction, it's not like prior, 10 years ago, there.
When prior to the demolition of the existing house, there was no sidewalk.
But would we know if the previous owners, for example, 20 years ago, had taken it out? Do we know if there ever existed?
The borough has no records.
I guess, how do we get sidewalk as well?
So the way that the ordinance exists, the sidewalk ordinance, it creates a procedure for when there is a permit to either upgrade or remove and replace. There is no ability for anyone that there had been no ability for any existing sidewalk to be removed without a replacement until the council created and amended that ordinance, which allowed for this particular appeal process. So this is the first. So now the second homeowner that brought it, but this was the first instance, at least in the borough attorney, where the capability existed now to request a complete removal. Prior to that, you had to actually maintain anything that was already there, and if you needed to even interrupt the sidewalk for a time period and then replace it, there was a permit process involved with that.
But that's, where I get there, that's what has me confused, is, there are sidewalks in Tenafly, how does those get there?
So if you may recall that well, not recently, but within the last 2 years, there has been some talk about whether or not to put sidewalks down the length of Magnolia by the school. And Council President Grossman obviously weighed in a lot on that because he was part of the process, I believe, when it was done near the Smithsonian. And so that's usually done by some kind of assessment, which is put on to those property owners, and in the process with open hearings and whatnot to allow the property owners to be area an opportunity to also comment on that and to be part of the process. And it's challenging. So it's not It can be done as part of a zoning approval, perhaps if there is a desire to expand sidewalks, we would have an ordinance requiring it. Doing amendments, it would be something that could be enforced by the planning board, zoning board, but as right now, that is what.
That's these are talking about things that are already there, how did those get done?
I have firsthand experience. So, first of all, there was a recommendation that I walk from in that particular. But I think recommendation between the parents groups that actually start with an HSA, you can have the recommendations made. There is no assessment to the homeowner for the impact in this ranges. We do not have an additional assessment of installation. The ordinance has been updated. Somewhere in there, there's now a requirement that if you want to put it in a sidewalk, you do have to notify all the homeowners to the impact potentially when you're discussing it. That's somewhere in there, you know that was added. In addition, it really doesn't require a lot because the town has a right of way in this 10 feet. The town by right, if it decides, determines that a sidewalk is important, necessary, safety upgrade, after the notification of the homeowners and the discussion, you go ahead and install it on the money. And that was exactly what happened.
Right, I mean, yes, we're talking about taking that particular advantage in the future. But I'm talking about like in a specific case, let's say,
I can give you an example, just.
how did that get done?
But they all got it done very that way. That someone on the sidewalk, some of the ones are way older in town, along Englewood where there's bluestone sidewalks, so probably predate even the town wanted to do it. But around the areas where you have schools, there's also.
Up on Boissier Court.
Yeah, there's also.
That was, so on Knickerbocker, on Boissier, that sidewalk, that new sidewalk went in there as a function to Wendy's comment, because the planning board requested it during planning board hearings as part of the discussion.
Did that answer your
Yeah.
question?
Lauren.
That's how it's been for a long time.
Could you open up to me and all the during school hours, say the school kids walk down Leonard Avenue, and maybe get to the school kids walk down Leonard Avenue to get to Walnut Park? Okay. You know offhand if that's the case?
What happened was that, so I'm just getting correctly. If the town decides that it's a meeting that are like safety issue or an upgrade you want to do, there doesn't seem to be a mechanism to have how the homeowner pay. That's still on us. There's no thing that is dead. And this is exactly what they're asking about, just kind of big picture. We see a house right next to a park, and we're like, hey, sidewalk should be here. We can't say, hey, if you live here, you can. That does not happen. Okay.
That is not, we can install it for, as I said, we have the 10-foot right of way, so.
No, right.
You don't need permission to do it.
Correct. I was just curious at the cost.
Well, we certainly did public hearings and gave public notice because the maintenance costs are borne that thereafter by the property. Okay.
We can show. And if the
Shoveling, repairing.
repair, tree roots up.
Other questions? Dan, you have a question? Okay, one person, questions, and the council members have comments, discussions.
Just a reminder, and thank you again. Reminder again. Kind of the rationale for it. So there's something there now. You're redoing the house.
I'm a very practical professional. There's just more awareness.
the sidewalk goes 20 feet to the left against. And it's just, to me, it makes no sense putting it out. I've got 3 kids, I'm safety is number one reason, trust me. If I thought that if I walk in front of my house, where it didn't matter anything on the safety, like, we'll live everyone, even ask. And we'll live out when anywhere, but I can be extended over each property as well. I didn't want my kids to walk on the top right. But, as you go towards Tenafly Road, you saw the pictures, I think, Lauren doing there last time, but I circulated the pictures on the show that we should from 3 homes to my, go all the way to the city. My kids will walk on the south side to get to Tenafly, to get to the school, and my youngest will go to the school. We'll have to get on the road. And this is where it is high. You will just pop, will be complete, you won't be able to see anywhere. And so, and there's an island to the point, there's a complete sidewalk and to end on the north side of the street. And Julie, one of the questions you had, the street is south of, Leonard has no sidewalks on any side of this, all the way to the Tenafly Island. So I'm just like, I want to be treated the same with everybody else and don't want to do work. That's just makes no sense or there's no value to anything. Put my kids in danger. All right, first, you then.
Yeah, just on your question, I actually wanted to ask no question again, but you know, you said that there are some properties within the 10-foot right of way, and there are those being tied to hedges and things like that. Do we have is that something that the code enforcement will have the department will
If they're obstructing,
Come on up, please.
sorry.
if they're obstructing the sidewalk or obstructing the street, yes.
Because you know, the resident was saying is that you know 2 houses down, that there are hedges that are several feet high, 6 feet high instead of something.
I would say 4 or 5.
And it's in the right way. And so people, and the tree we can't do it. But hedges, you know, people planting those hedges right in the right way. So if that's something to look out for.
Currently, we do not allow anyone to plant anything in the right of way. Those items that are in the right of way at this time, if the hazard will save them. If you go after everybody, you have to go after everybody in town or tree or bush.
But you hear a law like that where it needs to improve, I don't think that would be something. Some of the things, you know, something that's now.
Maybe so some would be correctly selected into it.
So, our enforcement policy generally by one of the complaints, so if the resident puts in for it, then typically code enforcement will go out and confirm it, but they don't have the, they don't drive around looking for it,
Which is professional thing. Doing this for a while, we've done a lot of things.
Is sidewalk itself, at this point, I would agree that, it goes nowhere. If you want to do the rest of the sidewalks because it's close to the school and the, park, borough feels that it's needed and wants to put them in, I would say you should leave it.
Well, I was actually just going to say, since the resident has now described it as dangerous, I was going to say, please let code enforcement know. So that's what many said. And I think Bob now is the resident raising the issue. I will say I'm on the street a lot. My kids play at home a lot. I play, you know, T-ball, softball over there. I know lots of the kids are on the street a lot. And so knowing that if we said to you here at the table, you know, our preference would be to extend the sidewalk, would be useful. That's something you're interested in.
Extended all the way to Tenafly Avenue. All the way to Tenafly Avenue. 7 blocks, I can build it all the way to Tenafly.
That's an altitude.
So the house is there, and every house is 75 foot on the chart on the city itself. I guess so, yes. But again, if the town decides one day to build the sidewalk, I'll build the sidewalk, but. I mean, right now, we have no value or purpose. And again, I want my kids, and my kids got very strict instruction. You want to get over there, across the street, walk on the north side of the street, where they have a sidewalk that leads all the way to kind of my house. So not walk on the north side. My neighbor, Alex, on my right, on my east side, the house immediately, he's got 2 kids that go to elementary school, across the street, all the way. And then even right now, if you like this up, if you don't put this up, regulations, there's water, there's gonna be ice, and I just found a place to keep the water.
But you have to actually figure it out, what are,
Not on my property, on the 5 other properties, between me and 10.
each homeowner would have to clear every time.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions from council members? Do you have any closing statement you'd like to make?
I just, you know, I'm going to be a resident in this town. I'm not, I'm sure we have a lot of people that come house flippers buying, selling, and this kind of thing. That's not the angle. I want to make sure that everybody knows that that's not my angle here. Just trying to apply common sense and try to keep that the neighborhood a little bit more green, a little less concrete. And again, the presence or lack of presence of the sidewalk on my property will not matter at all to the reality of what the street is and how to get everyone into together. So, for that street consideration, the fund and environment itself mentioned that it really needs to remember to know where you're really focused on it. Normally, hopefully, we don't take this.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to close the discussion, then we'll have a vote. Have a second? Okay, so the discussion's closed. Should we structure this as a question, then we go yes or no, or ask a question, people say yes? Structure as a yes or no?
Either way, is there an answer?
Yeah, there could be a discussion. I'm throwing it out there, how you guys would like to vote on it. So, does someone want to make it?
Question would be, is there any discussion that the council would understand?
Okay. So is there any discussion the council would like to have at this point?
Is the council that as professionals said, sort of binary, right? So if I understand it correctly, the council could decide to do the entire street section place. That's an option, right? I don't know if the council has interest in that or and if they don't.
You just say
I'm
something.
sort of binary, either you want it the whole way or you don't want it.
Everything or nothing.
Right. In a building.
I was a proponent of the sidewalk on the pool and around my neighborhood because my kids are in the street with my dog and, they're walking through the playground in the street. So I go into sidewalk for benefit to not just the homeowner, but the larger community. So I would absolutely be open to suggestion of finishing the sidewalk.
We just have to be careful because I remember when we did this with Magnolia, there's an equal 50% of people that would tell you, I don't want to break my back on shoveling like it was pretty 50-50, right? When we spoke about it.
Well, I think
Ish.
the school parents were more interested than the kids
Then the residents.
and the rest.
Correct.
Again, we're only looking at this street, so that's a different thing.
But that, I don't think so my whole thing is, first I'm under the interest of, my interest is in sidewalk. But I don't know how much they cost. Now I've learned that the cost is borne out by the borough. A little bit of a conversation in the dark. So we have kind of two questions. One is we have an existing sidewalk at this house. The question is, do we want to take it away or move it? And for my thinking, I am interested in expanding the sidewalk particularly to go towards the park where there isn't a sidewalk on either side of the street. So the kid is forced to walk in the street, at that point. So I think really the question has to be, are we taking away the sidewalk that exists? And then part two of the question is, and maybe you can correct me, maybe you can, when do we go to students, which is, hey, you know, building department, whoever, we are interested in expanding that. How that?
Jeff, go ahead.
Right, so I don't know all the details of how it works, I just think it's a protracted process. First of all, we do need the funding. And then before we even really secure that, the concept and the step we're going on first is not just, in this case, not just putting a sidewalk, you're removing hedges, which is not an issue, but you're also moving phone poles. They would have to remove your work around that. I understand the binary versus non-binary on this. I think I actually wish Andy Hitler were here because the question I would have, and I think the the answer is, if they took out the sidewalk and they didn't want to put one in, that's not any different cost than if they left the sidewalk, because they're going to tear it out anyway and redo the section. So the cost would actually be pretty comparable.
But the cost is on them versus.
But they build them differently, they build them to a certain.
But Jeff, isn't the cost on them right now?
What's on them, what?
They to repair the sidewalk.
That's if they need.
Right.
But
Oh, no, they said it's not, that it needs. No, I'm saying, so they're saying, so it's their debate right now versus us, putting in an town in Penn.
It would be 2 to 3 years from now before we even do it. And I can tell you I'm down here just longer than that. I'm going optimistic.
Close the door. Yes, Lauren, go ahead.
Julie, in Old Japan, they actually sidewalked their entire town within 1 year. They did an assessment and every household did the work. Our parents were there. It was not.
That was work drainage.
Yeah.
It was done rather quickly. It was done online. It was an initiative. They got lots of residents. It actually was wonderful. It's better for ADA. It's better for our seniors. It's better for, you know, the children. It's better for everybody to walk around safely off the street. And they made a big push, and all of them did it. And it did not take street. They did not have a huge cost for the homeowners. And so they really were able to do it. The council came together and made a sidewalk initiative, and they put it further. Now, I will tell you that all of the streets in and around this area, there must have been some city planning before our time, because they all have double sidewalks on both sides of the street. Every street in a row, in and around Walnut Park, has a double sidewalk on both sides of the street. Why this one little street, a couple houses is overgrown and it was never put in? That we don't know. Code enforcement, there's nothing in the records that say they got to remove it, but it looks like in the city planning, it was intended to have double-sided sidewalks on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 streets in a row, double-sided. So again, whatever council came before us, whether this got through or not, you know, 50 years ago, you know, it was overgrown, so be it. We are now at a place where we need a city plan, and what is our plan? So I will say, I'm all for putting sidewalk initiatives into this year's budget. Behind my support.
So but keep in mind, though, everyone, this discussion tonight is making a decision on putting sidewalks through the whole town. This is about one house with this. The residents set a sidewalk nowhere. It's either everything or nothing.
Sidewalk nowhere, safe place to walk.
Understood. Where it ends, and where it ends, right?
But at least in our area.
In the discussion, folks, can I actually say one thing?
One thing, please.
Flooring on all that are sidewalk, both sides. They can take over the blue.
No, at the 50, I don't know what my directions are, everything.
And all of the entire wall up, they go to the.
Now,
And those sidewalks. to your question, you need more than enough to put that up to the now. Whereas the person who puts up, I want to do all of it, and I'm like, everyone's gonna have to pay for this. I'm not going to wait for the bid, ultimately, the approximately data that I, or anybody else, they the town, and if this town decides that there needs to be a sidewalk. So, yeah,
So you two did the, just to catch like, there's a sidewalk there. And the trucks to repair, to provide, remodel the house. Caused a lot of damage, and that's kind of why we keep talking with her.
I also want you to, if the house next to me would have to rebuild completely before the property would not have voted to MLS. Two new houses coming out our next, one will be required. Everyone has to be treated this way.
Okay, all right, thank you. Lauren, you have one more question.
Like I said, I just want to, when we are looking near me on Magnolia Avenue, double sidewalk, there is a wonderful grant called Save Walks to School, Save the School that actually have grant money that they give municipalities to create sidewalks for children to walk to school. So streets in and around school areas. It's a wonderful grant. School board has to get involved, but I'm just saying things like that. So it's not always like.
If it's not decided later on, but that's something they want to do.
And again, I'll make a discussion.
I just, again, don't necessarily, going back to the board exclusion point, I mentioned about before. If there's a bigger discussion that needs to happen, I just. That will mind.
Understood.
And of course, I'll be involved like anybody else, whatever the bigger decision becomes down the road.
Okay, any other council members want any other discussion items on this? Okay, so how should we do all this?
It may just make sense to, I guess,
Okay, so bring a motion for that, or we just go around the table. The motion is all question. The question is going to be, you want to agree with the homeowner's request to remove this sidewalk in front of his house. So can I get a motion to vote yes or no on the question of to allow the homeowner to remove the sidewalk in front of his house? Yes means he's able to remove it. They're able to remove it. No means they're not. But have a motion. Have a second.
Second.
Omar, call the roll, please.
David. Rosie. Michaels.
Yes.
Okay. Sidewalk is ready to stay. Thank you for your time.
I really do think so, given that a sidewalk, the place to go, we need to really take a look at Leonard Avenue and continue this.
Hold the conversation.
Well, Jimmy, can I ask you down with Pam, the colleges for a full on?
That's a good idea.
I'm doing one side. Let's put that on an item to be considered a discussion. Okay?
Yeah.
We'll put it on the next meeting. And talk about that.
We're going to be talking about the street commission.
Just one vote, it makes no sense to spend money on colleges looking at something. But again, we're gonna have to sing in it this last time that 50 or 60 or 70% of the people don't want it. Why waste money on a?
I will just,
And again, I'm saying,
I know we're just putting on the. My key concern actually isn't so much in the school, which is the local one side. My concern is the park. And people being able to drop off on that end of the street. More important, so people can drop off their kids and have them more safely.
But that's what Lauren's saying, Leonard.
Okay, so
No, but that means it doesn't have to. Be. Like, it could be.
so we'll add the sidewalk discussion to be considered at the next meeting.
And then
That would
the
be helpful.
homeowners probably, or no?
Well, I think the council should have a conversation about what homeowners they're talking about, what streets they're talking about before we start alerting people. let's have a conversation. Okay, so next we're gonna move on to the library roof and list Avenue update. And from Polly is Carl's here, Richard's here. Who wants to go first? Call Richard.
First.
Okay. Just go on to the microphone, introduce yourself again.
Good evening, Rich Brown, I was will. It relates to the library. Several months ago, we did look into it, we had a couple of contractors. You have a older proposal. And possibly getting them updated for two reasons. One, the, way things are going cost wise. They need to be updated just for that purpose, but also some of the areas where it's problematic, particularly when you go in, the length of return, that area where the ceiling continues to have an issue. So we're going to get a cost just for that area specifically. That's most problematic. We also know that, in a long-term family, we don't want to use any money. So, by the end of next week, I will have all the proposals refreshed and share them through the Andy and come back and share everything with them to give them an idea of what the cost would be for the roof, the shingle roof, the flat roofs, and also just isolated this problematic areas.
Questions for the council? Lauren, go ahead.
Sure.
Were we able to realize, I guess it's for both Jimmy and Connor, for anything, were we able to use Connor for anything inside that internal roof that we were gonna have to replace? Not the roof, excuse me, the ceiling tile. Say it wrong. The ceiling tile, were we able to use Connor to assess that?
Once you solve the roof infiltration issue, then the other issue will be able to fix and have to be simple. But until you properly and solve the other issue, it's only going to be a continuous, situation. You may want to remove that temporarily, so that it doesn't be problematic. Maybe a safety issue, files fall. So that's an issue.
Apparently we're not allowed to fire concern.
Yeah, I know, right. It's part of the rating. Yeah, it's part of the environment. But we're just struggling to concentrate on getting that particular.
Can I just make sure, I just have a question regarding the right hand side and the left hand. I wasn't sure if anybody when you were reviewing this, any work with anyone in the library, because I know that sometimes when we have conversations in the library where it comes in and says, that wasn't their understanding.
I have specifically with them, only the ladies that are there. They pretty much generally know the problematic areas.
Okay.
I will say, I'm glad today that there was a vendor that came out. I was notified this morning. So I did notify the library that they were coming to inspect the roof. Just that there would be a group of inspectors just walking around, visually inspecting everything.
We had
Outside.
Colliers, the divisions come through along with them really today.
Okay.
So what's the due to come back to us with estimated proposals? And from that, we'll be able to go out and bid once the council decides to invest the money.
You'll give you an order of magnitude on the isolated areas and also overall.
So you'll go ahead.
Sorry if I may, would that include also an update? Well, I guess we had recently voted for the membrane solution, or is that going to be united?
We'll not get them for everything. The membrane areas are not that bad. I don't believe they're as problematic. It's a little bit shady. But there is that particular area where the shingle would be matched with the area. Wow.
All right, council, have any more questions for Richard? Okay, thank you. So we'll see you. Go ahead.
If we have snowstorm coming, I think what we would do.
Trying to, if there's an opportunity to love the roots, so it's an isolated area that are problematic. We try to remove it, safety, so it would be.
With tarping beforehand.
It better doesn't work. The water travels right under it, it's hard to get it.
Vanessa, go ahead.
Just wondering if no one changed or no.
Say it again.
Whether they would pay for some of the other discussions like the Tenafly.
Are they saying for this short set discussion? No, that's a full separate conversation, not at all.
No, but I mean, that.
No, what we did.
Or I guess,
No, no. There's no. Any other questions from council for Richard?
We can talk with them.
We're gonna do that next one, Richard. Are you done? Yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Yep.
Okay, Carl, how are you?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carl O'Brien. I work with Andy at Colliers. Give you an update on the culvert and go over the change orders that are requested as per FEMA and Bergen County Soil and the so for the Lift Avenue culvert, as you know, everything's been through with IDA. We've got a lot of correspondence back and forth with FEMA and design to use the Riverside co-op to expedite construction on this project. Through the project, FEMA in consultation with Bergen County Soil and DEP have all recommended putting both the Avion basket. It's going to be basically 1 foot of baskets that are in the stream bed going up the sidewall. And that's going to help from any potential future washout. So it'll help stabilize the culvert that's there, that's now put in. What that's there for is to help slow down the velocity on heavier storms that go through there. So it dissipates the speed of the water flow going through the culvert, so it doesn't get behind the culvert and wash the whole thing out, so it will collapse. I was out there earlier today, looked at the location, it looked good, it's coming along very well. I then went 1 block over and saw it was 1 block over. So this is me not being involved with the project
Just, I think, expand on what this 1 block over means, wait.
Hudson?
And what?
Okay, yeah.
For the other bridge.
Yes, so from Tenafly's perspective, you're ahead of the game with putting everything in because FEMA, DEP, and Bergen County Soil is allowing you to put your permits in after the fact. You're going on an emergency basis. If you don't do the things that are required by these agencies on an emergency basis, it automatically stops, and then now you have to go into putting your permits in beforehand, such as it appears what they're doing on Hudson, where they're doing the permit before they actually do construction. That's what it appears to be over there, just because it's not anywhere near constructability much where you are. By moving forward with the process that you're at, what this change order does is it gets you the requirements that are needed by DEP, by Bergen County Soil, by FEMA to allow you to finish your construction. So then you can apply for reimbursement of your funds up to 90% from FEMA. So the price tag at the end, when you have your as-built dollars for this project, you're going to get probably around 90% of that fee back as a reimbursement through Hurricane Ida funds. If you don't move forward with this, what could happen is the project comes to a screeching halt, the contractor is able to walk off site. We have to go through the whole permit process from the beginning. And until those permits are approved, you can't get back on site for construction and you risk losing all the reimbursement funding. So what could be 90% go down to 0. So our recommendation, and we can submit a letter out earlier on that, describing the whole process. I reviewed that. There were enough review correspondence earlier back and forth with the FEMA representative. Our recommendation is to move forward with this and continue it. It appears that while all the material is available, so we can move forward with construction. You're looking at weather dependent, end of February, everything's going to be done, and then we can put it for a final year.
You say end of February.
That's what it's saying.
What is, I mean, the delays have been extreme for these residents, obviously. We had been telling the residents as of last August that they would get this road workable and walkable. And obviously we're not there. You know, that's 6 months later. We're in January now. what is, the additional month and a half? What are the?
It's for putting in these gabion, baskets throughout the stream bed and off the sidewall, about 6 feet high.
Open the road though, at least for mobility, driving, while.
You may be able to, I don't know that answer, but I think my name is around the.
So just to quickly address the question. So we had a conversation with Kia, we had a conversation with PSC&G about 2 weeks ago, okay? Because the last remaining kind of structural issue was the gas main. So in addition to the bridge, and the culvert, and all the parts that go into that, you've got water, you've got electricity, you've got gas, you've got all kinds of utilities that need to run over onto the bridge, okay? And the last piece of utility was the PSCG gas main equipment that needs to go somewhere in the bridge, okay? And as of about 2 weeks ago, parts finally came in at PSCG, literally. And they're supposed to be on site day after tomorrow, Thursday, installing it, so that, you asked the question, so that's like the last component we're waiting for, but now we're dealing with this particular issue.
And that's really utilities there, and what was one of the major utility upgrades was relocating the water line out of the stream bed. It was actually relocated outside of the trench box. So, if there's ever anything wrong with the water line in the future, we don't have to go through the culvert, we don't have to go through the brook. We can go around the side of the fence where everything's tied in. That's what part of the utility upgrades from, the water company.
No, we're hold on. Julie, go ahead.
So, obviously you mentioned 10% is like how the cost would be versus the 100% if we don't, any estimation, what the total cost of the job would be? I know you're coming back with revised to Jimmy.
I believe that is in the letter. We have to.
So the current contract that was awarded, through the recycle off the J. Which is just over 1.5 million.
With these revisions,
The word revision will be an extra 200,000, so about 1.7 million.
so then 10% of that is,
On the municipality.
90% of it will be worth.
no, I just.
That percentage on the right side of the table, 100% will get reimbursed by you.
No, exactly, so we'd be able to repair the whole area for, less than 20,000.
Yeah, by the time the reimbursements come through, it's a little bit of lengthy process, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Questions for Jim?
Okay, Lauren and Jeff.
Today, don't you believe in Congress for their oversight of the project?
I do not have that account.
So you're asking for an additional $30,000 for Collier to come in and finish the job. Why is the fee that we've already been paying you then August? Why isn't that covering finishing the job?
Because that's how I do this change order for the gathering of baskets and all the coordination that is about the oversight of that.
Why does that cost $30,000?
That's what it's estimated to
Can
be.
you break that down for me?
I can request that with your level.
That just seems like a very large fee for the first part. I'm already paying you fee to do the project.
It was above and beyond the existing scope. So it's outside of the scope of what we do.
So how do we come up with the number of $30,000? If we need to vote on this now, why don't you go get one call? I'd like to know.
Andy is out of town, she's waiting on here. And
We need to
so-
get this done.
Understood, so engineering fees, like architectural fees, are based on a percentage of the total project cost. So if you have a project for $1 million, and it's whatever the fees are, 15%,
We're paying. We're
it's about $1 million. But if the project now becomes $2 million, you pay engineering fees as a percentage on the next $1 million. But that's why I asked Susan to come to the microphone to talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so we budgeted $181,000 and spent $185,000. We budgeted $181,000 for Colliers, right? Yes, we're talking about like that, right?
Yes.
What's that? Yes, thank you.
And we expended $185,000.
And that's for the design, permitting, and inspection.
So that's about 10%, a little over 10%, right?
It's about 15%.
Our original appropriation was 3.5 million. So we're not spending all of that.
So again, why, if we didn't spend all of our for the total, then this additional engineering work should fall within the total budget, and it shouldn't actually incur an additional fee for college.
The change order.
It's a change order.
But a change order is still within the amount that initial budget 3.5 million.
No, so the change order originally, the amount of the budget increase that we, then we what? You have
So let's isn't finish your.
for the majority 1.5 million. Now the change order is 19 million. So now the additional engineering fund for the.
I understand, but I'm asking, why does that cost $100,000? We've already given them almost $200,000 for oversight and inspection and terminating on the project.
And this will be additional effort, for those guys.
I just find probably should be more time.
So again, like any engineering or architectural project, the fees that they charge. So that's what's going on though. So it's about, right, the initial project was X amount of dollars, the fees are based on that. Right? Oh, Jeff, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, just to your point, we keep saying it's on 200,000 square, 110,000. 30 out of 170,000 is 17.5%. My question was twofold. One thing you said, Carl, and one thing I keep hearing, you said we'll reimburse up to 90%, and I keep hearing we're getting 90%. You want to know which is.
From my experience with FEMA, it's up to 90. From what I've seen from municipalities, it's typically between the 80 to 90% dollar figure. I can't confirm or deny it's closer to one way or the other, but you know, what I've seen is that area on the municipality.
We really shouldn't be something, we will be reimbursed 90%, but you're worried.
Yeah, I think 90% is a good get because we request everything that we're allowed to. FEMA will come back and they'll say, you're going to get reimbursed for all this stuff. And whatever you're not getting, they'll show it as exclusion. And we can always go back to them with an updated request as to, or more information as to why this is validated for the reimbursement.
That's my money question. Now the engineering question, that are used for that.
Yes,
So you said these are 1 foot gabion block?
they're 1 foot thick of galleon acid. Around pier areas, they go 3 to 4 feet deep around the tanks of the walls of the slope. They go anywhere from 4 to 6 feet high. They're
Width from the bank.
I believe it's 1 foot all the way around.
Really north of the street. Pretty good. 1,000 pounds stone. The question is, how are these baskets attached to the bank in such a way that they won't come out, come loose? Because that doesn't sound like a very thick.
So
They don't want to spend more.
Period. It's a great question. This is recommended from FEMA for and they're anchored in with stainless steel, basically nails, stainless steel nails that are 6 to 8 feet in length. They're anchored all the way through, going into the depth of the stream bed and out to the sidewall as anchor points. On the end of we call them nails, it's a duckbill effect where it spreads out and ties into the backing. So then pulling away from the fascia is designed not to occur. So it's stabilizing them. They are, I believe our details show that 6 foot on center
in all directions. So 6 foot to the left, 6 foot down, 6 foot diagonal, where it falls in areas where it's critical, that 6 foot spacing is tighter. So that if you know there's a pinch point where there could be an issue, we're gonna super reinforce those areas. You want?
We could drive those nails in with a file hammer or something.
Yeah, it's pretty much yeah. They have the machines that are not in. Yeah, the doors hammer too.
Any other questions from council on this topic? Sorry, Lauren, your question.
Can we vote separately? So I actually didn't have any questions about the resolution and on.
So, I believe that, everybody can make the decision and move the resolution over to, consent agenda. Or other resolution, section of the agenda.
Sorry, just for clarification. What are the options? So option one is pay the extra money. Obviously, I'm simplifying. Option one is pay extra money and get the. Or option two is don't pay it,
Don't close, don't open the bridge.
and don't open the bridge.
Whatever. Money.
You're operating the bridge.
We're operating on the bridge.
To simplify it, the minute that the contractor is pulled from the site, it is no longer declared an emergency. And you go back to square one. And that's the concern with everything, because then that, the cost of the bridge and all the improvements then becomes the borough's full responsibility. So the likelihood of getting any FEMA money at that point is close to zero.
But this is so important, how come the Colliers isn't giving us 50% of the percentage?
I don't know.
The fee, look, I'm not worried about the J. Patrick Kramer proving that work that used to get done. My question is still on engineering fee you're charging the borough out of it. I just find it a high fee for a page you go almost $2,000 to oversee the project on a resident. High fee. We're not gonna get back.
So the engineering fee is part of the reimbursement. That's why. You guarantee anything.
Right.
But it's part of your reimbursement to get back from the.
So again, here, as I haven't said, let's say we hold no other, the 2 rent we already done on reimbursement, you said.
Understand that. I also questioning.
The other aspect of this, these young baskets, the design, and everything else, we have to re-engineer the plans. The gathering baskets, we have to re-engineer the plans in accordance with the comments from DEP, Durham County Soil, and FEMA. Re-engineer them, resubmit them to the agencies, get them to okay everything. That was part of the design effort that we advanced to move this project forward, still on the emergency. Next is this goes to construction, we get a construction level better. So that $30,000 price tag that you're quoting is for design, permitting, coordination, and on the back end, the inspection for J. Patrick.
And that's you finish up with this project.
Correct.
And we see the program,
Yes, that should include everything.
I will tell you, tell the people.
That's a technical. You know, but this, in terms of the fees, you know, we could have a conversation with Andy regarding, you know, confirming that the percentage we're paying for this change order is the same percentage we're paying on the rest of the project, you know, rather than trying to do that math in our head now, because that would be consistent, right? Okay. All right.
Just a question, I guess, Mark, when in terms of the public use, and now we're possibly moving them to a different part. Is there an opportunity for the public to, like, have public comment about this particular section, or?
So we have public comment later on, but we're voting on this for that.
Okay. Is that allowable or something? I'm just thinking about public comment.
So similar to making a motion to add it to the consent agenda, there could be a motion to move the order of the agenda to bring public comment before the consent agenda.
The only reason I'm thinking about it, and if everyone is agreeing and fine with it, is the only reason I'm thinking about it is we both say we had gotten some public comment, like earlier, like during the work.
I'll ask for a motion to move public comment. It's not a big issue. No, fine, sure. No big deal. Okay, so first, is there any more discussion from the council before I ask for a motion? Okay, so I'm going to ask the council. Thank you. Don't go yet, though.
I'm here.
I'm here. Okay. I'm asking for a motion to add resolution 23-61 and 23-62. 61 being the change order approval and 62 being the engineering fees. It's consistent with the same percentage for this change order as it is as the whole project, the original project itself. I get a motion. Move. I get a second. Second. All in favor? Okay, so we're going to add that to the resolution, Omar. 23-61 and 23-62. Next, I'm going to add, ask for a motion to move public comment from item number 8 to immediately after to be considered and prior to the consent agenda vote. I have a second. All in favor? Okay, you're off the hot seat for now, but don't go anywhere, please. Okay. All right. That's
The way it's fine. It's really-
adding it to the consent agenda. All right. Okay, there's a voting now. Right.
Right, so when you read the consent agenda, you will come up with.
Okay, the second is the Tenafly salt shed structural assessment. We're going for a second opinion. Jimmy, you want to walk us through that, please? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, to be considered the solid waste contract. Jimmy's going to talk to us a little about the doing some more analysis and potentially going out to bid for
Yeah.
comparison.
Thank you, Mayor. The current contract we have with Waste Industries and running from May 1st of 2019 expires April 30th of 2024. This 5-year contract is for both curbside and rear yard pickup. We have met in committee a handful of times just to kind of get the government and knowing how what recommendations and what we make to the full council, just get direction from the full council. Within the committee, we've done an analysis on potentially bringing these services in-house through the Public Works Department. So the analysis included to show what that looked like cost-wise and administratively. So this is, we just wanted to discuss that with the council. Just a few things to consider at this point. Trucks, if we were to order them today, are about 18 to 24 months to order. So that's one thing to consider. One recommendation that may be made, but again, it's not the discussion, is to go out and bid for a year or 2 years, hauling refuse contracts and be awarded up to 5 years. So we just have to wait some of those things in the market and how people turnaround times are looking. So I guess the recommendation and consideration, keeping in mind, is potentially going out a bit sooner. I may have mentioned this year, one, to get an idea of the pricing, and two, to allow us to figure out if we were to bring these in-house, if there's no time to order the equipment and get it replaced by then.
Go ahead, Councilman Michaels, please, you're first.
Is this, so this, would this work that we could start having today's conversation during like the budgeting process? I know this is for next year. I'm just saying,
So
at that time.
So just the thought is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's right, we have this analysis going. And that we want to see if we're gonna recommend to the council that we actually go out to bid this season for a contract that expires, that takes effect, you know, the following year, because we need to know where we stand with a potential vendor, or what will the cost be of the potential vendor versus doing it in-house? Because doing it in-house is an enormous decision. So we need to know, have justification why we do that. So we would want to go out and bid this budget season for the contract that's up.
I just had a question, is that a binding process with the, go out to bid, is that being
So yes and no, you would have to have a certain budgeting amount. If the bids come in that substantially exceed what you have budgeted and you can't pay for it, then that would be for general.
So, what's on the table is that, thoughts on getting truck.
Yeah, I don't think, I think it's the overall concept, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's also just kind of digesting what's the information, obviously not just right now, and it's some areas that I think just so that the council members have time to look at the analysis, if for questions and thoughts, they're happy to address them. We have, you know, we have enough time. It's not something that's been done tonight. We just want to introduce it to be able to. There is a lot to digest and a lot of variables that play into it in the current market. You know, nothing is imminent at this point. Just want to get the that part of this.
But this is a major issue. It's going to be, we're going to keep bringing it up at every council meeting to resolve.
I just wanted to, it has to be automated trucks or whatever. I mean, we still have, when we went from the recycling trucks to the one back or whatever, we have trucks that reflect those in
No.
And so those wouldn't work.
Correct.
So we heard the answer. Yeah, we had certain trucks that were used for recycling. Are any of those, can we use those in any way? Because I don't think you throw them out. We still have it.
So. And what was your answer to this one?
I mean, no. The short answer, no. I mean,
You can't use those, we use them for snow plowing.
Right.
Also, those are when you see the rear packer truck, those are what are retrofitted. So what happens is if the one arm is down, there's actually a way to have those trucks retrofitted for pickup into the back. And other than that.
But in other words, we would be kind of stuck to ordering the trucks that are mentioned. I just said that one line, how does if they give the estimate for the salary, does that include the increases?
yeah, they do their based off of current contracts and then anticipated increases. Yeah. And then of course the French.
Questions, Jeff?
Yeah. Not so much a question, so. This is gonna be. Sort of a question over that, because there are traders. I did find out, and I can tell you an estimate about estimating 5 years for fuel, because if you look at the very bottom, the two asterisks excludes fuel costs based on the number of miles we're driving now. For recycling, which is saving the miles. And current fuel costs, and then increasing those fuel costs more than 10%. We're talking over the course of the 5 years, you can add another 360,000. About 60,000. So that's an additional cost. The other thing that we need to keep in the back of our mind. Again, this is not. Is that 1.9 million for purchase of trash hauling equipment, the trucks, the rear packer trucks, and garbage carts. So that's being added as a 5-year total. Those trucks, those cans have more than a 5-year lifetime. So this is a more conservative as members, I'm comfortable with being conservative. But realistically, and we had my talk to other towns, and there's been 8 to 10 years, we have one on our truck, there are repair costs. There's no question, but it's not like the cost of the new truck, and the carts, the cans, those are built for very long. So that 1.9, which we advertised, is really over 5 years, is more like, we could almost do a 5-year cost, and then the next 5 years, virtually agree to just cost of maintenance. So,
Even if you advertise it over 10 years, it's still, our cost is, what, 700, almost 600,000 a year or so. Just roughly 10 years is 200,000 plus, what you have above 6. And,
yeah, but we're taking that 4.9, we're taking that 4.9, we really dropped about point.
that's all I'm at. This is, you know,
It will do so. I mean,
Susan's been doing a lot of work on that.
doesn't matter.
One of the other things that we should be looking into, is a comparison of communities that actually prefer the minimum with their own individual trash contract. Susan, where do you live?
Yeah, no, we don't do our individual, but we don't have, and we do have rear yard pickup
Which town are you in?
in Upper Saddle River,
Upper Delaware.
but we don't have, we don't pay for it. That's the only service we have. Oh, we have nothing else. But, yeah, but one thing I think we need to remember is, and I don't know if you guys said it, is what the impact will be. Should we still go out? You're talking about at least a 30% increase to the current contract. And it could be up to 45%, 60%, 75% and higher.
Well, we know last time we did, we had one bid, and this was it.
Every town is getting one bid that I've
Every
heard.
town. So Jimmy, I was gonna say, thank you for the comparison of towns, but these are nowhere near us. What I would like to see is living county only. I'd like to see how outcome financing work out with what the residents have to, are, you know, on average paying for their own trash collection versus a community collection. I do think as the conversation continues, we have to think out of the box. What's happening, from what I understand, is that the waste management and similar type of trash hauling contracts are going territorial. And they're not going, different companies are not step on different territories or counties. And so we need to focus on our area, in our area. Another thing we might want to consider is coordination with other surrounding communities that also have waste management and say, either you're going to get us all, you're going to get none of us, unless you cap the percentage of the contract a certain amount. If there is a way to negotiate the contract, okay, fine, I won't go there. We're going, we can talk about it.
Thank you, shared services.
Well, you can go, some can, but it's still going to be the lowest responsible bidder on it. We're not, you shouldn't negotiate this down. It should be, but because waste haulers are all answering to one place with no competition, it's not working as it should.
That's what the FBI is investigating now. So we'll get back to them to deal with.
But in the meantime, I do want to consider other avenues of trash collection, which other communities do. And literally right next door to us, they don't have a contract with this company, and they didn't spend $6 million on a new truck to collect the rest of the trash. So there are other avenues. I think we need to explore all of them. I'm not saying this is a bad avenue. I think it's really a good option. But again, it's an expensive and ongoing cost to the borough and the residents. And if we can avoid that, you know, when you force adding more employees to the borough, we have to consider a lot.
That's why I'm bringing this up now, because there's a lot of work to be done here. Jeff, and please.
so for my friends who are involved with the environment, One of the things the council member did, when you think outside the box, one of our big costs in this is tonnage.
Yeah.
Which we pay whether we have waste management. or not. We, some towns, not, but there are communities looking into composting options to remove from the trash things that should be composted. Not that I would be for enforcing it, but definitely to offering it to our residents as an option. So that we can, look, if we take 10 tons of garbage out of the mix a year, we're way ahead of the game. That's actually when the town decides.
So Jeff, I'll just say that we have a tremendous interest within the Environmental Commission of people who are on the commission who come to us with examples of communities that have town-wide composting. We get the question probably, like every time of why do we not have town-wide composting? And yeah, there's a very, there's a lot of interest there for that. Another question I just emailed you was about the idea of, you mentioned about how much the gas fuel costs. I just was asking if you could look into electric vehicle, they have that for this.
One on electric. Good question.
I think Burger Bill's will all do now.
Keep in mind before everyone falls in love with one-off bandits, we haven't even had a conversation about rear yard versus front yard pickup.
We have a lot.
This is a lot because you can't have one-off bandits if you're having rear yard pickup. Yes.
I think the homeless, suggestion that individual contract. People have to love it.
We didn't do that.
And how, looking at our,
Right, because right now, sitting here, we can't answer whether it's less expensive or more expensive.
But
To your question.
I think it's great because
Well, I know that.
for some competition as well. And maybe, but then you also have retail or wholesale.
Yeah, right now, let's keep in mind that waste management, our entire commercial downtown area. Except for a couple, I believe, dumpsters are from a different company, working on and pick up.
I don't get private always, so.
They are, so I'm curious to know that. They're not.
Anyone can bid on it. You can open up your own threshold business if you want to bid on it. Okay, any other questions from the council on this subject? More to come. Jimmy's got plenty of notes in terms of getting more data from the council for the next meeting on the topic. Okay, next is fiscal year 23 local recreational improvement grant program. We've got a couple of options here. Jimmy, you want to walk through them, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mayor. So by recommendation of the rec director, we have two potential options that are eligible for this grant. One which was submitted last year was for the beautification of the municipal field. And now, and then the other option recommendation is where the current skate park is, to level it and finish it flat surface line. So doing that would create areas for sports and activities such as football, volleyball, roller hockey, small-sided soccer, cross, foursquare, pickle, and pickleball. And you could have portable nets and equipment, small feeding areas and garbage shop. That quote's included in here, the 150,000 and then Schaefer. These are the two recommendations for that are eligible projects in this grant.
Council questions, discussion. Lauren, please.
Jimmy, I'd be very interested to hear, maybe, I don't know, to hear a little bit more about what, the director wants to do with the property long term. And whether, you know, there'd be discussions about batting cages and the basketball court here, or additional other sports. I'm curious to know, either from Jimmy or Adam, what the discussion has been, and not just, I haven't never heard of just leveling it.
So, two or three things. So the first one is the long-term vision has been very consistent. We talked about it on the council, which is Roosevelt Commons. How do we make it a friendly for all space? You've seen the plans, many years. That's, I think, the rec board, we had our meeting yesterday. That continues to be the vision of the rec board. You remember, we decided or agreed as a council that we were cleaning up the Roosevelt Monument, and the council would feel better waiting until it was cleaned up and relighted before we take a view of what that space should be. The great news is, thanks to Councilman Grossman, we now have lights on that monument, and now it is a sight to see. So going back, we are now back to, and the rec department will continue to will bring this budget cycle, the continuation of trying to make that something user friendly, bandstand, place for the outdoor concert series, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully that answers what the long-term vision is. In the near term, we appreciate that's going to be years at best. In the near term, we have this plot that's the old skate park. It was stopped because it killed people. So right now it is just completely empty, vacant, you know, terrible things, nothing there. With this amount of money, we can turn that space into pretty much everything, just like it was written. The idea is make it just not where you're going to break your ankles. Right now, if you walk there, you can break your ankles. Just make it usable. That's exactly what the intention is. So before we do the larger multi-year, what we envision for it, this will allow us in 3 months, we could literally be using it 3 months. That's the intent.
I love this. Obviously, you know, I'm all for free spaces, improving our common spaces. My question then, I'm going to turn to Jimmy for that, is why are we just with Ben Shaker? Why aren't we doing that?
They're on a state contract to co-op. You could bid it out, but it's nothing ready to do so.
I mean, you and I met with various playground companies, I believe, I think, talked to around every one of them. You know, some of them had some beautiful concepts, and others did not. I'd really like to make it a better fit.
If I could just jump in, at this point, you need estimates of pricing for purposes of the grant application. You're not actually taking the steps to do the project yet, so you would exactly
Don't do it, and we're not talking to a vendor.
correct. This is for purposes of pricing to know what to put into the grant.
Just keep in mind. Yeah, right now we're at the point of seeking authority to submit an application, which is the decision to have to be tonight. The application deadline being January 20th, and that's when it is set with the baseline, and this grant offers $100,000 max per project.
I'm just going to say, for my council, this piece of property is centrally located. It's utilized by, you know, residents, our students, lots of people. It's actually in the visual line as you cross through our downtown. I would definitely lean towards fixing up the skate park area more so than beautifying uni, which I love municipal fields, but I think we could use an open space fund at some point for landscaping municipal fields, do some of those improvements. But with this grant, I think you get more out of it for the community and the skate park area.
Comments from the council. So I think perhaps we'll ask for two consensus here.
Right, so if you'll notice on our new format of agenda, we knew that this discussion was needed tonight, and that a decision for a choice, one, the other, or neither would be made tonight. So there is a placeholder under the resolution section of the agenda. It's just choosing which project will be that resolution number? If either at all, you know, because it's not.
So can I go with the consensus for the project or need to vote?
Right now would be consensus and the vote would be kind of resolution, so consensus, which.
So the question I'm asking, I'll start with Dan. You want, Dan, you're interested in the skate park or Muni Field, A or B? Your Muni Field. Jeff? Skate park or Muni?
How many hundreds of people came out here for Muni Field to continue to be.
Warren, Muni Field or the skate park?
And so just to make sure everybody understands, so Muni Field is just some beautification. It's just gonna make things look prettier.
Both are making things perfect. Just so we.
So let's just make sure we do understand, absolutely that's incorrect. And again, I couldn't care less. I'm telling you, but just so clearly you don't understand. Option one is Community Field. It's gonna be it's gonna look exactly the way it is today, using the exact same sports, everything. It's making it prettier, which I love. It's a win-win for me. I win both ways. That's one. Option two is a space that is unusable today can now be usable. I mean, that's just fact. So now I just want to make sure we understand because it clearly wasn't, you know.
It was extremely.
Okay.
Can I just ask before we can, do either of you have any interest in using open space to complete the beautification of Muni Field? And then actually also getting done the community green space in the center right now? But if you use the grant for Muni Field, then you sort of lose that opportunity. Because you're gonna be spending the grant money.
Yeah. We're in the middle of a consensus, so it's a little bit, but I hear what you're saying.
So
Right,
it's
so
an
let's-
open space project for the existing skate park area in the budget, or just as an open space, you would vote yes?
All right, so let's, well, we're in the middle of a consensus here.
But I need to understand before I vote,
Okay,
what the rest of my council mindset is, so I know how to appropriately plan for the green space. My question is, if you choose Muni Field, are you open? Will you use that? So you're not really interested in fixing up the area of the skate park that's closed right now?
they voted, they made their choices.
Mayor, please don't become an-
I'm not trying to give them that.
To answer your question, and to answer ultimately, yes, I am interested in seeing the swim club area cleaned up. I'm interested in seeing the area where the skate park is cleaned up. I'm interested in seeing us maintain to its highest quality the Muni Field, because that is one of the most used places in town. We have hundreds of people here who want that to be state of the art. For the baseball field being there, but life is about choice. And at this moment, when given the choice, which is what we have, you may not like my choice. I understand that. I respect that. So respect my choice.
Okay, so your choice is to add,
Right now, my
And
choice is, my choice is right now to get greater utilization of a Muni Field. And we need to figure out what we're going to do to the monument. We absolutely need to figure that area out. That also happens to be a potential historic site. Because the landscape architect could be designated, and the whole landscaping could be the first landscape in New Jersey designated as historic landscape plan, which would weigh into this discussion.
in the $100,000 here that would go back to the municipal field, what part of it would go to the field and the use of the field? Does somebody answer that?
Jimmy, what would be,
Any part of that?
So I can read the scope of
Yeah.
what was submitted
Read the
last
scope.
time.
Okay.
The beautification / cleanup and landscaping of the property surrounding the field, including addressing overgrowth from the landscape retaining wall onto the synthetic turf field. Improvements to the access road from West Plain to facilitate spectators and visitors pedestrian access. Improve spectator and feature area between the campus room / library building and field to facilitate more appealing area for spectators. Add new caging for dugout areas that do not exist, and addressing drainage issues.
I vote Speaker.
Okay. Benoit, please.
I don't think you're gonna need
Adam,
The rest all commentary.
Skate Park. Julie. Okay.
There's, one or two housekeeping. So resolution R 23-60 would be the resolution to authorize the grant proposal for the municipal complex field improvement.
23-60. And that's staying on the resolutions, correct?
There is also a resolution to authorize an election strategy to submit the grant proposal. So that,
And what was that number one?
I just want to double check, Jimmy, is that required in this meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
So we have two resolutions, one for Millennium, and then the other is part of the grant requirements of the governing body supporting the specific project. Had both lined up for tonight, depending on the direction.
So is it 2361?
No, we raised.
Oh, that's right, you're right. So 63.
Just keep in mind that estimate about 200,000 that for the resolution for the municipal field estimate.
Not for the grant writing.
No, the grant writing is 19, just under $2,000.
All right, next item on the agenda is the Tenafly salt shed structural assessment. Do we need to do that?
Yeah.
Please.
At a previous meeting, we discussed the current conditions of the salt dome and salt shed at the Public Works Department. And we received the recommendations and from our engineer, and that I was directed to obtain a quote for a second recommendation. So this is the quote $4,800, which consists of doing a inspection and doing observation and of the existing structure, making recommendations and recommending how to proceed and potential options given the given structure conditions at the salt dome.
Questions from council?
So, I know in the past during our W meeting, and there was alternative structure that would be more reasonably priced. Instead, I drive around here and stayed a whole lot. I drove around right after the blizzard we just had, and see a lot of salt structures moving through, and they weren't all the same. I'm curious to know if any alternatives.
So there are what I know. Not speaking from an engineer's standpoint, I know the requirements between New York and New Jersey are a little bit different.
Okay.
And there are in New Jersey, you are allowed to have fabric, a certain type of fabric shed. It's not always recommended in terms of practicality and shelf life. But of course, Crystal Port would give those type of recommendations. And the pros and cons to it, the shelf life, how long they would take, and the cost. Obviously, the costs are a fraction, but they're gonna have to be the shelf life much less.
Benoit, go ahead.
Oh, no, I don't know, I mean, there's, yeah, and I'm talking about New York, and there are various structures that I think including right now one. There's basically just like a tent, covering the, so I'm sure there's some platform or something like this. They put it on there. Like an open, tent. So, I think we do have a number of options.
Comments from council?
Right, so there's consensus to move forward, then there would be authorized in the next. There's no resolution.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have that question, because now I can have it.
No, just need a consensus. Is everyone good with this?
Yeah, for sure.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're gonna have public comments. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body on items of the committee on this agenda. Large groups are asked to have a spokesperson represent. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak here? Come on, right up. What, Christina, the job.
I'm always.
Yeah.
That question about the format, first I would. You raised some concerns, you raised some concerns about being the work session that public have a chance. Comment. I think that was not in the correct mindset, but if you look at the code or what's online, it appears at least at one time that was actually required. So I guess the question is 4-30, ordinance that requires the work session to take place Tuesday before the meeting, and also the venue where agenda is prepared, and that meeting.
So we actually discussed this as part of the discussion at the last meeting, that the way the council had been operating, the work session meeting followed by the action meeting wasn't in the same spirit of what the original ordinance that's still on books was saying. However, the ordinance also says that it shall be at that time or at such other time as noticed by the clerk. So while it's not in the spirit of it, it's not opposed to it. And the consensus from the governing body moving forward is let's try this format to see how it works. And yes, if we were going to continue with this, then the ordinance will be amended. This is on a trial basis at the moment.
Yeah, so I don't think that's accurate because we're confident this the state or federal election format then. But never during the discussion, the meeting, certainly for 2 years with the meeting, I think everyone's taken over. There was never a situation where it was scheduled that way. Or not to mention, there's still a requirement where it's a predecessor meeting. So if it's a requirement to be a predecessor meeting, how is this meeting take place? And the predecessor is not met. And we spent 95 minutes here on actually their voting.
Are we not really here right now?
But your agenda is required to be set at the work session. Right now, the last year, the agenda is handled in the dark. You've been having this work session required to be taking place in advance notice, 30 seconds before the meeting. So I think if you look at chapter 2, each one of those is a violation of the ordinance.
I disagree with you. Again, it has several different things followed by comments as to why it can be different. And it is subject to public notice, and all of our meetings have been noticed as such, whether a work session or a regular action meeting has been duly noted either by annual notice or by special meeting, and they've all been complied with. So notice provisions have been met that can supersede what it is the Tuesday prior to the Tuesday after.
How would the notice provision or the requirement have been addressed?
Because if you read through the full paragraph with the different commas and how they refer back to different sections, it does allow for deviation. Whether deviation is in the spirit of what it is that they feel should have happened when they passed the ordinance in 2004 could be debated, but it doesn't dictate back to notices by the Public Meetings Act and properly debated.
So, and in all fairness, I don't have a full ordinance.
The full ordinance? Oh, the criminal one.
But I guess the second part of that is, I don't believe that it was the only person who raised some objection. Well, and look back at the notes in that meeting, the comments, the commitment was clearly that a public comment would be right action.
That is just the way the agenda was put forth for this evening. It's not a set agenda. The mayor, before you got here, had noted to the public, please bear with us. We're dealing with a new agenda. We're working through things, things around. And so that had been noticed prior to your entry into chambers.
No, this was published in that 2 days ago. That was the plan.
No, I understand. This evening, when the mayor opened the meeting, he addressed the fact that things were going to get moved around. And public comment has been moved around.
After action.
No action has been taken to date at this point.
You just denied that or mandated a cycle of over.
That was a public hearing that had been carried and then carried from another.
Well,
And that was open to the public during that discussion, 2 different meetings.
I don't think that was a part of that game. That was eliminating some of our report.
Well, let me ask you this though, are the ordinance from 2004 also specifically said that work session shall not have any input from the public? That would seem to be in violation of the Open Public Meetings Act.
And, right?
And so ever since I have been sitting at the dais, there has been public comment added to the work session as well as the regular meeting. So the ordinance says that it should be
Input for the agenda. Wire.
public
And that
participation.
was for bidding.
The public may attend but not participate in any other way in the work session according to the ordinance. We didn't follow that, I'm happy to say.
But you're not following my
No, when we were holding the work session, we added in
saying.
questioning whether the last 2 years, if the meetings ever occurred. And what I'm telling you is over the last 2 years, according to the ordinance, if you want to read it the way that you're reading it, it would have disallowed any public participation in a work session. We have always had public participation in a work session since I have sat at this dais, whether it be virtually or in person, because it is required by the Open Public Meetings Act. Therefore, what I'm also telling you is everything that has been done by this council in every meeting has been done in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
That's separate than the department.
And if the ordinance is running afoul of the Open Public Meetings Act, we're still going to run with the Open Public Meetings Act. I'm saying that the our meeting is ordinance, otherwise, except for that session, that would be the only session I'm telling you that we're not. You're misinterpreting because this is not a work session.
Correct.
This is a public meeting. And so whatever you're saying is from happening tonight has absolutely nothing to do with what the ordinance says for a work session. We're not advertising a separate work session. We're incorporating the work session into the public meeting. It is incorporated as part of our agenda.
Thank you. Christine, what's the microphone? And say your name, please.
Christine Avon, 39 North Street. One quick question for you on the gathering baskets. What is the expected life expectancy of the basket for coming there?
Good question.
So the gathering basket, they're running life of the culvert, so I don't know what that time frame is. So, there shouldn't be any issues with the life expectancy of it, but how they would fail. Those nails that I described earlier, they're tied into the sides into the bottom, and they're also, the gathering baskets now are connected together as well. So they're not isolated like one by one pieces, they're all tied together, so that they won't fail out.
The other thing that I had was to reiterate the request that you plan and decide on issues affecting the downtown that businesses need to respond to, like sidewalk safety, what we're going to permit, what you're not, as soon as possible. Our business owners need lead time to prepare, and we greatly appreciate having it. If you think you put lead time on things like maintenance and perhaps thinking the light pit folks, or anything else that might disrupt traffic downtown. We had the unfortunate situation where on Mother's Day, there was some water main work that was discretionary. So they scheduled on our biggest catering day of the year. So if we could get advance notice for anything you plan to do, would be great. And
You mentioned.
I invite the council and everyone else to the chamber is sponsoring, or excuse me, is associated with one of our business owners, Karan, who has written an autobiography, that he's an African girl. She's having hope signing Wednesday, February 1st at the JCC. At 7:00. You can sign up on the JCC website, and we greatly appreciate your supporting one of the local businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Omar, are there any members of the public out there on Zoom looking to speak?
No answer.
If you're out there in public on Zoom, raise your hand or wave or say something. It doesn't sound like there's anyone else here in the chambers looking to speak. Yeah.
I definitely need glasses. I cannot see a single name out there. At some point during the meeting, when we have a public comment session, I would like to speak with our meeting. Any way, either we can enlarge the list of people who are watching us by Zoom, or just announce the names if it's just a couple, something, because I literally can't see it and we don't have access to it.
Well, I mean, that's a good question, Omar. How does that work? Can you really ask people
We
to
put it in.
choose not? I guess we could put it up here. Can we make them larger?
We can have it at five.
Okay, so let's have Omar have an offline conversation about how we make this more visual, or whether we can put it on the screen over here.
It'd be great over here, Omar. I can see there.
Yes.
Not really.
I've been reaching out for that, I still haven't had any, any confirmation yet, so when we, man, I think it's gone. So I follow
Okay. Close public comment portion. There's no one else asked to speak. Next, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve resolutions R 23-49 through R 23-56 and R 23-61 and R 23-62. Do a motion, please. I have a second. Omar, could you read the roll, please?
That's what I did.
Fahim Jackman,
Oh. Go ahead, Omar.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
That's my president. Yes. That's what I did.
Yeah.
That's your records.
Yes.
That's what I did. That's what I did. That's what I did. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So these resolutions will be considered voting on next day, right?
No, these resolutions are being considered tonight. They're just not under normal course of business type of resolution, so they would place separately in order to have a more council discussion.
Okay, so council discuss, so should I go have the council discuss all at once or go individually and vote individually?
The vote will be individually, the discussion can
Be
be.
individually also, okay. So let's start with resolution R 23-57. Contract for the sanitary sewer system, Piermont Road, sinkhole and piping repairs. Any council questions on this? Yes, go ahead, Renee.
There are two things. One is, to, council regular refrain. Why is the, why is $6,000 right there in about 40,000? That's 40%, not 50%.
I don't know the answer to that question. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one. I was only, probably older. If you need the inlet for whatever reason, or Jimmy has the answers, I would go with that. I can't see what. I'm not.
Okay, so if the council wants to pull that to get further information, we'll pull that. I just need to have a sense from council. Do I have a consensus to pull it?
Okay.
Any issues with that, Jimmy? Okay, well, good question.
But then related to that, the second resolution, it's for the same amount, it's the same backup, what's the difference? I'm not sure. What's the difference.
One is for the actual construction, one is for the engineering oversight.
Okay, so that it's the same amount for both.
No, there's two separate amounts.
That's a 58, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
So the write-up that the background,
Yeah, so I think. Right into the and I know the second, 23-58, that was, also right.
We're voting the wrong one, right?
right, so 23-57, just further sure that the public and everyone and the members of the council is a $14,000, $167.70 contract for the actual work, the construction. And then resolution R 23-58 was the engineering services resolution, which was the $46,000 amount, especially.
So just to be correct here, so we want to approve 57, but pull 58.
I think maybe we want to stop at both, right? We have to.
Suggestion for you, if you want to approve the engineering and not to exceed dollar amount, that might be the way to move forward with it, is that we make sure everything moves on and we can coordinate and continue along the way.
I think the challenge.
But I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't expect you to be sure in the context of this meeting tonight, but I appreciate your suggestion, but I think the issue with the council is the percentage of the engineering being based on the construction, so therefore they don't want to do it, not to, they're not going to want to do it, unless I don't want to speak to anyone here. They're not going to want to do it, not to exceed until they have a full explanation.
I was just trying to come up with a catchy solution.
Sure enough, thank you, I appreciate that.
Be working with these colliers, not to see the amount, the exact amount, but again and again and again, and we are trying to avoid that.
All right, so let's just pull both of them for clarification. Jimmy will get clarification and we'll revisit it next. Okay, so so the resolution R 23-59 authorizing the sidebar agreement with the longshoremen's union. Any questions from the council on this resolution? Thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. We appreciate your patience.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. R 23-59, any questions or comments?
Another question, could somebody explain, what's going on?
Yeah, so the council had actually asked for this to be written up after recommendation from the administration, but it is clarifying what happened with standby on a holiday versus weekend. It's the DPW holiday. Yeah.
Any additional questions from the council? Can I get a motion to approve R 23-59, please? Can I have a second? Omar, can you please call the roll?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Next is R 23-60 and R 23-69. They go hand in hand. Recreational improvements grant and authorizing financial strategy grant writing. 63, sorry, that's what happens. So 60 and 63. Any questions from the council? Okay, can I get a motion to approve R 23-60 and R 23-63, please? That was second. Omar, can you please call the roll?
That
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to couch this, that while I'd like to finish this deal, I do think it's a service to our residents, not a potato, to renovate the skate park area, and I hope and task our council with continuing to look at that area. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Now we're on to the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to highlight the two items that are on my report. The first one, at the next council meeting, we'll be swearing in the two police recruits. So they'll be here. The chief will also be making some awards as well in the department. So I think we'll be having those.
And I also say on top of that, that our chief has been, nominated for the next try to be, you know, the director.
What the association.
Yeah,
He's being sworn in as the president of the Bergen County Chiefs Association for the year.
Thank you. I did want to mention that. Congratulations to Chief Chamberlain. So that was fantastic.
Absolutely. And then also, we have been, I've been notified by the county that the borough will be awarded $87,038 of the $199,000 requested for the open space grant at the swimming club property. The grant award agreement, all the paperwork will be for the company. And then, barring any questions on this or any other grant, I know there might be a question or discussion on the grant opportunities available, whether tonight or at the next meeting. I do want to highlight that there is one grant here that may be of interest to the council members. We get some questions today. That the one is eligible to be used towards the purchase of a new ambulance vehicle, which may be timely upcoming budget season. I believe that grant deadline is early February. Yes.
So let's say we want to follow through on some of these, or let's follow through on some of these. What is the best way? How would we come up with a system? We just say you pay, do we have to apply for this? Do we have to come up with a sentence to apply? How are we going forward?
I mean, that's up for the council. I mean, I've been providing a lot of them, it's tough with the time turnaround.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to take 2 meetings to decide to find a grant to do tomorrow.
So if companies inject something, most of the grants require some sort of match. Correct?
And or a resolution.
Right, so I'm just gonna put this out there, that unless the council authorized some sort of bucket fund of money, we really can't apply for grants that are gonna obligate the borough to match it without the council approving it. Okay. Now, if the council, I'm just throwing this out there, we should raise a question, if the council decided to budget X amount of dollars specifically for grant opportunities, let's say at the discretion of the borough administrators to apply for, then the borough administrator would be able to do that because money would already be set aside for that. But absent anything like that, council has to approve it when the council has come with money.
Maybe, can you put that concept on the next agenda to flesh that out? Because I mean, just on its face, and I'm noticing how quick the turnaround is on stuff. We kept hearing about this, like how quick these grants come up. We just wouldn't have time to go through like 2 consecutive meetings. But I'd like that explored because we're kind of see Dan's hands. I mean, to me, it sounds like a good idea. Like, people can come.
So let's put that on the agenda for the next discussion. So, yes, Dan and then Jeff, please.
We have all of the all area grants. Maybe adding that if we provide this via this grant, this is this. Rather than us all people got paid.
Yeah, but that doesn't exactly solve the issue of the time and the turnover.
That's what?
It's your one meeting. You say this.
Yeah, but how are you guys not addressing the issue of the time of getting approved to council for the money? Right? You're raising a very valid as a separate issue. Right? Understand. Well, first Jeff, then the do.
Yeah. After the comment about it's not for 100 days, I do have one year. On the historic management, one of the things we have talked about is hiring someone to do a preservation plan for the state. Literally, if we're going to get state funds ultimately for that place, is going to require it. So it looks like under the historic and the preservation.
Through the Historic Preservation Commission.
The
Those were-
first management range
But through our historic,
through HQC, probably the person who already has done.
So the next meeting, that the end is that idea of the bucket of money, that is to be.
we'll put it on to be considered, yes, absolutely.
And if it works with the governing body, when there's things that are timely of the state, we're obviously working for some things and we'll go better with the resolution planning, like the recreation grant, but there could be to be considered with a placeholder in case you want to move a resolution over. So that gives opportunity for discussion first.
Okay.
Thank you.
You know, I must say, I think it's something various committees and our senior services plan. We wanted to do, you know, age-friendly grants, which I know there's significant amount of that. And yet, there's just not really an avenue to follow through on. Because our committee meets once a month, or for example, for this committee in particular, we really need to come up with, and for all committees, a methodology, a standard operating procedure to generate an idea, maybe bring it forth for this council, find a grant that matches the size in the time of the right, like just something for it.
Well, we made a good step in hiring professionals to start showing us grants, right?
Right.
Because, right,
So
so.
these aren't making it to my committee,
Right.
but first,
the-
the ideas that are needed in the committee aren't making it to Millennium. So we really do need to, and Jimmy, I come back to you as a kid, but to come up with a system.
So essentially, if one comes up and just immediately send it, that of course perspective.
Maybe there is a actual way, but I mean, again, this is all my discussion about whether, you know, right, there's 50 grants a month, you distribute to all committees, they decide, you know, let's talk about that offline. Then they'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's those things, you know, we'll talk about the budget, but, you know, the concern, of course, is, you know, we get all of the grants and we're applying for them, and this is kind of an extra, in a way, it's an outside way of influencing the budget, you know, so that, you know, we don't know if the budget will balloon or. I think we have to be very careful about how we approach grants. I think maybe the CFO should be incorporated into the process of looking at how much there is, you know, maybe all this, and there should be an analysis in some way. When prior to getting this at our meeting, we should get an analysis of.
All right, that closes the administrative report, Jimmy?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that. All right, so that makes sense.
Take it to conference with them, one person for that. What I'd like to see though is, you know, the way we do the rest of the report, it should say how many fees are they accumulated, how often do we find them, you know, all that we find them. For example, if there's a repetitive open property here, the idea of the vacant property would that we then try to reach out to the business owner, try to reach out to the landlord. There was supposed to be like an ongoing discussion. But somebody wasn't just supposed to be, hey, here's a sign, walk away. The whole point was to have an interaction with that business, you know, do you need help, do you need advertising, whatever it is. But, I just, the list is not, I mean, it's see, but it's not useful information for us to understand how many times that business is defined.
Okay, I'm
How
talking.
many years.
I did talk with them about that. The ordinance as well.
All right. Let's move on to the minutes to be approved. I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 3rd, 2023, the recess meeting, the January 3rd, 2023 reorganization meeting. I have a second. All in favor? Okay, anyone have anything for good of the order?
Yeah,
Yes,
so. From the public. When we have discussed the performance. The typical linkage between among. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding what the first meeting in the month. It would basically be a work session where only things like bills would be taken care of. And that the items that we are discussing would then give us time to get information, and that the meeting 2 weeks later would be the actual working council meeting where we would then take action. This seems to be non-keeping of that discussion.
So what happened was in this meeting, there's a lot of items that came before you earlier that, most, if not all, well, I guess there's two that are going to carry, but most were somewhat timely. You know, you recall that the last meeting on January 3rd didn't have normal course of business because it was the rework meeting reset. So it's been over a month since you all have met taken action on any item. So there was a lot that has been building up behind it. After for the good of the order, there is another placeholder for upcoming meetings where there was non-timely resolution that has been put on to also discuss for future action of the meeting. And that was kind of the intent where there is things that need to be acted on. It'll be upfront, and then you'll have your discussion of items that can be coming for upcoming meetings.
Right, so I understand this section, so I hope that this is
It's a work in progress.
and that's why I'm expressing how
we're all in the same boat.
I would like to see it going forward. We should not really be sitting here arguing about, are we using like this or this, or this out tonight, and vote on it, and have a resolution placeholder tonight. I understand comment good time. And you need some time to get it before I had this having a good example. But I would hope that would not be. So, I just wanted to. Thank you.
Anything else?
And did a good job.
Pardon me?
And he did a good job.
Work. So far, but it's not over yet.
It's not-
Yeah, like for the next meeting discussion, or work session, to make sure that we have a discussion about those we lost during the COVID pandemic so far. I want to not lose sight of the project we're working on. Plus, I would like a discussion between council about naming something after our referral attorney.
Yes, I think that we've talked about that for a long time. I think it's important we kind of. So why don't we put, naming for book forum on the agenda, be considered, and also the COVID, memorial.
I mean,
Yeah,
go ahead. If you
no,
wanna-
actually, you can give the update, because to talk about the COVID memorial, the next meeting, it doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah,
All right, so let's get to the committee report, just to keep it. Okay. So, John.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to start?
No, we're not ready for that yet. That's why I wanted to keep things in order. Okay. So anything else for the good of the order? Okay. So we're going to go to upcoming meetings area here, and so we've got 2 resolutions. And the next meeting is going to be appearing.
Yes, so these would be scheduled to be on the second meeting of January.
24th.
Okay, so what's going on with these 2 topics?
These are 2 bids, that we do, I get the frequency every couple of years that we call.
Every year, actually, it's annual contract, we, release the grants for maintenance and repairs of police. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the, police vehicles that every 2 years are corrected. We're planning on, and also general electric for, repairs.
Those are the current, and then, of course, we have to rebid for the lowest. That are, for the same services, police vehicle repairs, and also maintenance, vehicles, and then repair vehicles, for the traffic vehicles.
Any questions from the council on this? Okay, so we're gonna move into committee reports, and we have a closed session this evening, so to the extent the committee reports will be condensed. Just ask, go ahead, Dan, we'll start with you again. Very condensed. Jack, please.
I can't do that. HPC met last Thursday. First of all, Mike Brown is the new chair. He stepped down. Emily Young is the new vice chair, and Thorin Trigger and Steve Stanler were sworn in as new members. The main piece of business was a hearing on major change, 177 Hudson, which is a beautiful old house that they want to do a facelift to. They presented an architect, a landscape architect, and there were a lot of great questions. The design that they presented was really good, and the HPC, which people maybe said, "Oh, I don't want it," but they made it very easy. They cooperative. They had some great suggestions of some thoughts, which Red Tech liked, and one thing is omitted by accident, and so they unanimously approved the changes. And it will be a house that is gorgeous, in need of a facelift, and will be getting. There's 177 Hudson, if you ever drive by, look at it now and consider it in another year or so, take a look and see how beautiful.
Right here, one side, right here, so 177, there was a couple houses from it that was old 1800 stone town, and I passed today from the Roman part. If anybody's out there with these old gorgeous homes in Tenafly and interested in talking to the agency about preserving their home and its history, please reach out.
The architect, I want the same architect that did it. Okay, that's my rule.
Thank you very much. Lauren?
My welcoming committee tried for new residents event for the ice skating rink, which was a great combination of two committees. Thank you, Jamie Cannon and her team. I think only one new family signed up. So I'm not sure we got the word out, but we are trying. They actually met yesterday, like made it. And after that, all of the rest of my committee this week. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. The Tenafly Nature Center has an amazing winter program. They're advertising also for February, April, and now summer camp. So anyone interested, please reach out for the Nature Center.
Thank you. Anu?
Yeah, and so we put a board of adjustment meeting, a couple of applications became one was for the property that they requested an installation of what they call an adjustable pergola. It was attached to the house, and so it ends up increasing the floor access ratio from 22.5% to 25%, and the board has approved it with the condition that an attachment to the house, but the other side would be left open, and so that they would make close that part of the house. So that was the first. Second one was on the oversized the property in the construction unfortunate issue to the existing property, and it was for access ratio very requested and a so they approved both. And with regard to the first application, there was an observation that the house was built into specification, and it was built to the largest possible to all the extent possible on the property. And so anything that needs to be changed on the property, they're coming, for a board, adjustment because space. And thought that was not necessarily, a good thing. But so,
Yeah, we had a rec board meeting yesterday. Thanks, very excited to actually have a number of new members that we're very excited about. Probably three things I leave the public with. One, just massive continued engagement. So 250 people on like football, over 200 people on the crafts club. I heard that the mayor joined sometime. There's big on the frisbees. Just really, really great to do. See, I've asked Jamie to bring to this council again the continued evolution of signups, so we can continue to see continues to be oversubscribed. So second one is the committee spoke about how do we get more feedback from our residents on what activities we should be prioritizing and what investment we should be making in the town as well. So they were toying around with maybe sending out some sort of survey of sorts, whatever is the most the easiest way to do it, but continue to provide feedback to recreation team on what additional services we need, additional places we need, where we should be investing our money. The third and final one, without embarrassing the mayor, I was thinking about inviting him to the Sweetheart Skate that is going to be Friday, February 10th.
Do I get to pick my own sweetheart?
You do. There's going to be lots of food. Supposedly, I'm told that the s'mores are like the hottest part of the ice skating rink these days. So again, Sweetheart Skate Friday, February 10th, from 6 to 8 p.m. 6 to 8 p.m.
Enjoying that. February 10th. What time? 6 to 8 p.m.
6 to 8 p.m.
You think so?
That's it.
So none of my committees have met, except I'm just gonna see over my time for the COVID Memorial Committee, the council, Bennett and I are on. I can give it over to Jimmy just to give the update. This doesn't cover, of course, this idea of the naming is for Bill and McClure, you want to talk about next time, but I figure like now would be as good a time to give you the update on the COVID Memorial, so things really won't need to talk about it.
Yeah, so the site location, everything, all the details were picked out and discussed among the subcommittee. The landscaping was done in-house, so that's been done, that has been done in the fall. And then within the past week or so, the bench that was chosen, recyclable bench, made out of recycled materials, was purchased, assembled, and installed by the DPW. And the final item is the monument, is the plaque be placed on the rock, which has been ordered, and so we're just waiting for the delivery of the plaque. That would, and then of course at that time we'll do an appropriate ribbon cutting ceremony for.
All right.
We've been having a lot of difficulty finding someone in the US that makes the section a little difficult to find them that would be able to not be a credit card.
Why don't you reach out to Matt?
Yeah, okay.
In other words, do a painting project on a bench. Yeah, that's easy.
I'll reach out.
You go ahead, you had a question.
Yeah, and just to follow up on Jimmy's comment about the Broken Memorial area. We used for this a recycled bench, using recycled plastic and all that. And if anybody wants to see what it looks like, and compared to other benches, it was more expensive, less expensive. where it's coming, you know.
I mean, it was average. I mean, we started among the ones that didn't substantially exceed any other type of measure for the same, dimensions and, style.
And in terms of useful life, it lasts longer, I would guess, than like wooden benches and stuff. And, you know, based on all of that, I would recommend, there that, we start, you know, getting benches like this, you know, the recycled benches for future bench, order around the town.
And that's what you got.
Yeah, and they can make it any way you want, but you know,
It doesn't need to change, it doesn't need to be, you know.
It's very easy to clean because it's basically plastic, hard plastic. You know, so I think we should, this is something that we keep the environment that people should, and it might be something you want to mention. That we do.
I councilman Madden is definitely going to go on science that the idea of the cycle plastic. It is something we should do.
Okay, thank you. You want to read in the, no matter remarks.
Right, so this will now be resolution number 23-64, and the aim of the mayor and council for the Tenafly County Borough of State of New Jersey, held on January 10th, 2023. The mayor and council of the Borough of Tenafly have deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss the matters being presented from the public. Be it resolved that in compliance with NJSA 4-12, the mayor and the council of the Borough of Tenafly are going into closed executive session to discuss the following. Matters following the attorney-client privilege, consent and confidentiality required in order for the attorney to exercise the ethical duties of a lawyer. And we have 2 matters of pending litigation and 1 potential litigation, and an additional matter of real estate for potential property. And this will be, I'm sorry, Mayor, and this will be taken in the meeting and released in public at the time that the matter is resolved.
Could I have a motion to go into close, please? Could I have a second? All in favor?
Deny my